3, 2, 1. Go. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You're listening to Today Islam, and we're broadcasting almost live all the way from the island of Curacao, just north of Venezuela. We're in the Caribbean, and to say the least, it's quite amazing and a lot of fun while we're here. We've met something more than just a nice island with the swaying trees in the breeze. Qatar is very famous for loving this breeze here. But we met something else. We met some beautiful Muslims, and then we found that the people all over the island, you know what, they have a beautiful heart. And we like that. It made you feel good, you know, to just, anybody you stop and ask them any question, that was very warm and open. And having spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. and in New York, you can imagine the contrast. When, I don't even want to go into what you would expect if you ask somebody in New York where to go, they'll tell you very quick. In any case, we'll move forward. We want to today talk about an important subject, and that subject is God. Because no religion is complete without God. But for those who believe in God, they need to realize that they have a big enemy. A common enemy for all those who believe is the one who disbelieves. The one who would take people away from belief. And we call him the devil in English, or Diablo in Spanish, Iblis in the Arabic language. Same character, same guy, no difference. So let's first begin with that subject rather than to talk about a specific religion. Is there a God, and how can we know? Islam is based on truth and proof. Over 10 years ago, when I was preaching Christianity, I met a gentleman who was a Muslim from Egypt. I felt it was my duty to convert him to Christianity. And I tried my best. And look what he told me one day. He said, you know, if your religion is better than my religion, I'm willing to accept it. I said, well, that's pretty good. This boy's ready to go. He said, there's only one condition. I said, what's that? He said, you will have to have proof. I said, what? Proof? Proof? Religion's not based on proof. Religion is based on faith. And if you have faith, you don't need any proof. Right? He said, wrong. He said, in my religion, Islam, we have both proof and faith. We prove and then we believe. I was pretty curious to know how you could prove that. After all, he's going to try to prove to me that there's a God. Well, I believe, but still, what's the proof? And these are some of the things that we'll be talking about tonight. So I'll begin with the name of Allah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and begin to tell you what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, has told us about His creation. He told us in His book that He's the one. Huwa alladhi, He is the one. He created samawati wal ard, the heavens and the earth, in sittul yawm, 6 periods of time or days. Thumma, and then astawa ala al-arsh, and then He rose above His throne. So this may be similar to what you already believe, but this is in the Holy Quran. And suppose that a child would look up to the stars in heaven one night and say to his daddy, Daddy, where did all this come from? It's a good question. When we think about the universe and all of its magnificence, it's easy to become overwhelmed at the design and the organization we see. And scientists have been studying the universe most recently with the help of what they call the Hubble telescope. And now they tell us that there are more than 250 billion galaxies. You know how many zeros it takes to make a billion? Yes. You must write a lot of big checks. And each one of these galaxies contains about 300 billion stars. So can you imagine 300 billion times 250 billion? Do you know how many zeros that is? A bunch. Yeah. I tried to figure it out, and it came up with something like 12 zeros, and I didn't know what to say except whoops. It's 75 something. What? I don't know, but a whole bunch of zeros. And imagine, anybody can observe and recognize that these solar systems are operating within specific laws, and they are in a particular order. And so the only conclusion that you can come to while you're looking at these stars, looking at the galaxy, looking at the universe, you have to conclude that there's some kind of plan or a design and a balance to every part of the universe. That same child might look at a picture of the earth on the wall or a globe on the teacher's desk and then ask, well, where did the earth come from? How did the earth get here? Another good question. You see, our earth is only a tiny part of the universe. Yet it is unlike any other planet. Did you know that? It is a perfectly designed system for life, especially human life. We can live here very easily, but we've yet to discover another planet on Earth like the Earth. Another planet like the Earth they haven't discovered. Nowhere throughout the universe have they even found life or even water. Oh, they're trying. But in the meantime, I'm going to just stay right here if it's all the same to everybody else. So think about it. Where did this earth come from? How did it get here? Who designed this? Who put this system together? Who created life in the first place? And these are the questions we should ask before we ever start talking about religion. We should find out, is there a God? And if there is, who is this God? And then find out what is our purpose for being here. Because if we haven't done that, we don't have any business asking somebody about what their religion's all about or what day they worship. Doesn't really make sense. And again, think. What about life itself? Where did the human life come from? Where did plants and animals come from? Suppose a child asked that question. What would we tell them? Well, I'd like to reflect on something. That if you see an automobile go down the street, you do not have to see the place that manufactured the automobile to know that it's a car, do you? Do you have to go watch them make it before you'll get in and drive it? No, of course not. Do you have to see a chef prepare the food before you eat it? No, they set it on the table, you assume it's food, you eat it. Yes? A map on the wall. You don't say, that's not a map, I didn't see anybody draw it. A painting. You say, I don't see anybody standing there with a brush and the palette and the little cam on the side of the head, so I don't believe that's a painting. It's just a bunch of stuff fell on that paper. You wouldn't believe that. So how could you look at the universe when you look up into the sky and your eyesight doesn't even come back and you can't imagine who created such a thing? And you can look at yourself and realize, hey, this is a pretty amazing body I got here. I'm not talking about being on the beach. I'm talking about... This is not bikini night here. What I'm talking about is that suppose you cut yourself. If you cut the body, if you get a cut on there, how does it heal? How does that know how to come back together? The pieces come back together and heal, and in a few days you just have a mark, and a month later, just a little look, maybe some mark, and then a year later somebody asks you, you got cut pretty bad last year. You say, oh, I don't even remember where it was. People get burned on their fingertips. And if the first layer is burnt, it can grow back and the same fingerprints come back. How does this happen? How? Is there some memory chip in there? And if it is, who put it there? How many times have you been sick and you knew you were going to get well anyway, eventually? How did you know you would get well? What is that? What's curing you? And look at what some scientists have tried to say. They've tried to say that everything came out of a boom, a big bang. A Big Bang. Now that's a theory that they have, and it's called the Big Bang Theory. Theory means what? No proof. It's an idea. But more people today have accepted that theory than they have accepted the fact that there is a God. Why? I won't be able to give you a lot of details on all the subjects tonight, but I would tell you this. We have a website where we've gone into detail on over 2,000 subjects like this. You're welcome to visit the website, and we've linked to over 8,000 more, or 7,000 more, for a total of around 9,000 different links that you can visit through our website. It's called todayislam.com. It's in English, and I'm sorry I'm not able to speak the local language here, which you call Papiamento. I can't say much, except what? Donkey. But I have to be careful, it's going to come out MR, donkey. Sorry about that. But the main thing that we want to think about is that for sure the scientists have some motivation. Somebody's funding that. Somebody's putting a lot of money into these scientific activities and their research to keep people believing that everything came out of a big boom, by accident, by chance. There's no God. And not only that, something very despicable is to say that a human being came out of a monkey. You say, well, what's wrong with saying something like that? I'll tell you why. Because that's exactly where racism will come from. That is exactly where people who have lighter colored skin will look at people with darker colored skin and say, you still haven't evolved. And that's what they did. At the time of Darwin, which was about 1859, people didn't have the ability to research and know the things that we know in science today. But the scientists have been able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt